Drake Maye from North Carolina is someone who is having a lot of momentum early for the 2024 NFL draft, with almost everyone seeming to think he is the second best quarterback in this class. While we can see the projections here where someone's saying like shades of Justin Herbert, it's going to take a lot of growth from Maye. He's not anywhere near that at the moment. His projection as the second best quarterback in the 24 class feels much more like expected growth, and it needs to be a lot of growth. It's not like Caleb Williams, who's already a superstar. Drake Maye has a lot of flaws in his game, and it's something that we're going to explain why we feel he could end up even returning to school after next season if he has an average year, as we suspect he may. The shades of Justin Herbert comments and comparisons are kind of insane in our eyes. When you watch the film, Herbert's arm is beyond what Maye has. Not that Maye's got an awful arm by any means, and Herbert is stockier. Maye is very thin, and we just feel like Justin Herbert, despite having questions coming out of college, was a much better prospect. Maye does have a couple things working for him. First, he's the youngest quarterback prospect of most of the notable ones, including Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, and so on. He's only 20, so even if he were to return to school for another year, he'd only be 21 or 22 come draft day, which is still perfectly fine. He also has the prototypical frame. Despite being a little bit slight, he's 6'4", and we think he could put on some weight and add a little bit of muscle. He also has athleticism for the modern-day NFL quarterback. It is not a plus stat, in our opinion, or a plus trait. He's a good athlete, but at the NFL, we expect it to be used much more on just rollouts and maneuvering the pocket versus actually designed runs. We think he's not very effective in the open field as a runner, and it's one of the more overrated parts of his game. However, like we said, he needs a lot of growth. One of the major glaring holes, in our opinion, is his accuracy, especially on deep balls that require touch. Routinely, he underthrows passes, and despite not having a ton of turnovers this year, there were plenty of turnover-worthy throws and dropped interceptions that you won't show up on the stat sheet, and you may think, if you're just looking at the stat sheet, that he's pretty careful with the football. Misses a lot of underneath routes, a lot of short throws that are too high or too far behind. He needs to work on anticipation on all parts of the field. He is pretty good at the middle of the field, especially at the medium depth, but most areas requires a ton of development. He also is not the best at sensing pressure. Sometimes he looks pretty good, but other times you'll see him drifting off to a side of the pocket. His feet get happy, not in a positive way like Peyton Manning. They get like jumpy. It's kind of hard to explain unless you're watching the film. And like we said, he kind of has blinders from the non-blind side. He doesn't see pass rushers coming at him from his right side, which is kind of surprising. And he, at times, is decent at climbing the pocket, and other times he puts his head down and just runs right into an offensive lineman and goes down for a sack. He doesn't have the escapability of someone like Caleb Williams. Not many people do, but he also isn't anywhere near even Bo Nix as far as escaping the pocket. He's not fast enough to get away from high-level competition. His best rushing game, or at least yards per carry against A&M, was a lower-level school. When you watch him play Clemson and Notre Dame, he doesn't get away from pass rushers like Isaiah Foskey. He really struggled when trying to escape the pocket to separate. As we said, his arm strength is fine. It is not Justin Herbert level. I wouldn't even call it necessarily an elite arm. This is something that potentially can be improved on. We need to see a ton of growth before we call him the second best quarterback in this class. And to be honest, we don't think it will happen enough. We feel like, similar to Sam Howell, who was a first-round projected quarterback, he's probably not going to be there after this college season. Now, we could be wrong. He could have exponential growth, but this is just what we see. And I would even go as far to say as Sam Howell was a better prospect coming out of college than what Drake Maye is right now. Our comp at the moment for him is Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton's been a fine player, but he's also not the top quarterback in the league, and he kind of never was, but he was decent. And if that's fine with you, he's probably a second-round pick at this point. And if he's able to make ginormous improvements, his comp will only go up and will be updated on our end accordingly. This is early projections for a reason. Like we said, we could look back on this come the 2024 draft and it could look really bad. But based on what we see, we feel it's very likely he has an average season after losing Josh Downs and ends up returning to college for another season.